The long-standing enigma surrounding Eric Fleming's life has finally been unraveled, and the truth is far from comforting. Born as Edward Hetty Jr. on July 4, 1925, in Santa Paula, California, Fleming's early life was steeped in hardship. Raised in a deeply dysfunctional and abusive environment, he endured a torrent of suffering that left behind both emotional and physical scars. Reports indicate that his father was violently abusive, and at just 8 years old, young Edward attempted to flee his painful reality by running away from home. He eventually found himself surviving on the streets of Los Angeles, living as a homeless youth and scraping by in the city's unforgiving alleyways. He did whatever work he could to stay alive, from shining shoes to assisting in local marketplaces. As he moved into adolescence, life didn't get any easier. The streets drew him toward gang life, and he soon found himself entangled in criminal activity. A pivotal moment came when he suffered a terrible gun-related accident, leading to a significant facial injury that required extensive reconstructive surgeries. Fleming later described this traumatic period as a crucial turning point in his life. One of his surgeries was unsuccessful and left him temporarily disfigured. This difficult experience served as a wake-up call, prompting him to reassess his choices and ambitions. With a newfound desire for structure and meaning, he decided to join the U.S. Navy during World War II. There he served with distinction, eventually achieving the rank of petty officer and being stationed in the South Pacific. His military service instilled in him a deep sense of honor, discipline, and camaraderie, traits that would become deeply embedded in both his character and his future performances. Upon returning to the U.S. after being honorably discharged, Fleming set out to rebuild his life intellectually and creatively. He initially found work as a laborer at Paramount Studios, where his rugged appearance and quiet magnetism caught the eye of casting directors. He started attending acting classes and trained under esteemed instructors who helped refine his natural talent. His early years in show business saw him appear in minor roles across 1950s television and film, including spots on Bonanza, The Silent Service, and Studio One. Though these roles were relatively small, they laid the groundwork for what would become the pinnacle of his acting career. That career-defining moment arrived when Fleming was cast as Gil Favor in the CBS series Rawhide, which aired from 1959 to 1965. Portraying the stoic and principled trail boss, Fleming infused the character with quiet strength, complexity, and gravitas. His performance quickly won over audiences, and he became a familiar face in households across America. Under his stewardship, Rawhide evolved into one of the most successful Western television series of its time. The show captured not only the spirit of frontier life, but also addressed moral and social questions that deeply resonated with its viewers. Fleming's authoritative yet human portrayal of Gil Favor played a major role in propelling the career of a then-unknown Clint Eastwood, who played the impulsive young cowboy Rowdy Yates. The dynamic between Fleming's measured leadership and Eastwood's youthful boldness added dramatic tension and richness to the show, helping cement its popularity. However, by the summer of 1965, the tides behind the scenes at CBS began to shift. In an effort to rejuvenate the long-running Western series amid declining ratings and waning storylines, newly appointed executive producer Ben Brady, the sixth producer to helm Rawhide, undertook a sweeping overhaul of the show. His mandate was to breathe new life into the aging series, and he concluded that a major cast shakeup was the key to doing so. This included the removal of several long-standing and cherished cast members, including, most shockingly, Eric Fleming himself. Among those let go were other core players like Sheb Wooley, who portrayed the weathered and reliable trail scout Pete Nolan, and James Murdoch, whose portrayal of the bumbling assistant cook Mushy provided comic relief and heart. Mushy had become a fan favorite for his loyalty to Wishbone, the cranky head cook played by Paul Brinegar. Also dismissed was Robert Cabal, who played the soft-spoken but steady wrangler Jesus, a rare Latino presence in a major network western. His inclusion had added a degree of ethnic representation to the otherwise homogeneous cast. Rocky Shahan, who played the understated but dependable Joe Scarlett, was also shown the door. Although his character was often in the background, Scarlett had become part of the fabric of the show's close-knit trail crew, contributing to its sense of unity and shared hardship. But the dismissal that sent shockwaves through the fanbase and entertainment industry was that of Eric Fleming himself. As the commanding heart and soul of the series, Fleming's role as Gil Favor was essential to Rawhide's dramatic weight. His stern yet introspective leadership grounded the show in authenticity and moral gravitas. Not only was he an outstanding actor, but he also played a pivotal role in shaping the emotional core of the show. His abrupt removal stunned many and raised questions about the network's motivations. In a later interview with TV Guide, Fleming addressed his dismissal with a mixture of dry wit and defiance. "CBS fired me because they were paying me $1 million a year," he quipped, though in reality his salary was closer to $220,000 annually, still a substantial sum for a TV actor of that era. The comment underscored the brewing conflict between artistic vision and financial pragmatism. It also revealed a hint of resentment, perhaps amplified by the fact that he had poured 7 years of his life into a role that helped define a television era. Following Eric Fleming's exit, the show's producers opted for a bold and contentious move. They elevated Clint Eastwood, who had up until then portrayed the hot-headed and youthful cowboy Rowdy Yates, to the position of trail boss. This decision marked a dramatic narrative shift for the series. However, Eastwood himself reportedly had mixed feelings about stepping into the lead role. In later interviews, he confessed to feeling uneasy about assuming such a central position, especially given the chaotic context surrounding Fleming's abrupt departure. Eastwood acknowledged that a major component of Rawhide's original appeal stemmed from the dynamic between Favor and Yates, the guiding mentor and his ambitious protege. Without Fleming's steady presence, that compelling emotional contrast was lost. Despite his reservations, Eastwood tackled the challenge with professionalism, leading the Cattle Crew through a shortened 8th season that featured only 13 episodes. Even with these attempts to revive the series with new energy and direction, the changes fell short of revitalizing the show's fortunes. Ratings continued to dip, and CBS began to lose confidence in Rawhide's long-term prospects. By the close of 1965, the network decided to terminate the series. The final decision came directly from CBS chairman William S. Paley, who canceled the show before the last few episodes of that final season had even aired. According to Eastwood, another key factor in the series' downfall was a strategic error by CBS. He noted that Rawhide had been one of the network's few reliably successful programs airing on Friday nights, a slot notorious for attracting low viewership. In an attempt to leverage that success elsewhere, CBS executives made the fateful decision to move the show to Tuesday evenings. Unfortunately, this pitted Rawhide against ABC's popular war drama Combat, which starred Rick Jason and Vic Morrow. The show, focusing on a World War II platoon operating in Europe, attracted a comparable audience of primarily male viewers interested in stories of grit, leadership, and adversity. This scheduling misstep effectively fractured Rawhide's core audience and hastened its decline. But even as the series ended, Eric Fleming showcased resilience and adaptability. He landed a high-profile supporting role in the 1966 romantic espionage comedy, The Glass Bottom Boat, a vibrant, fast-paced film starring Doris Day, America's beloved leading lady. Fleming played a smooth, urbane spy entangled in a web of comedic confusion and Cold War suspense. His poised performance added sophistication and charm, providing a sharp counterbalance to Day's vivacious screen presence and the movie's screwball tone. Although not the headline star, Fleming's portrayal hinted at a wider range of acting talents that extended far beyond the stoic cowboy roles for which he had become known. Simultaneously, Fleming made a well-received return to the small screen, guest starring in 3 episodes of NBC's mega-hit Bonanza, which at the time was the most-watched show on television. Set in Nevada's rugged frontier and centered around Ben Cartwright and his sons, including Michael Landon's fan-favorite Little Joe, the series allowed Fleming to reconnect with the Western themes he had long mastered. However, these appearances also gave him a chance to portray more nuanced and morally complex characters. He worked under the direction of action maestro William Whitney, whose energetic and visually compelling directing style brought extra intensity to Fleming's performances. One of Fleming's standout roles was in Peace Officer, the 18th episode of Bonanza's 7th season. In it, he portrayed Wes Dunn, a ruthless lawman whose obsession with justice morphs into something deeply disturbing. Fleming infused the character with a chilling stillness and gradual unraveling, painting a disturbing picture of how unchecked authority can devolve into tyranny. His nuanced portrayal earned praise from fans and critics alike for its layered emotional depth. Fleming's ability to elicit empathy for even the most morally dubious figures underscored his range and commitment as an actor. Impressed by his work, Bonanza creator and executive producer David Dortort invited Fleming back the next season for a more ambitious and dramatic role. This time, he portrayed Haber Clausen, a devout Mormon rancher in the two-part episode titled The Pursued. The storyline tackled a subject rarely explored on 1960s television: religious persecution. Clausen and his family, seeking peace and freedom to practice their faith, face mounting suspicion, prejudice, and violence from surrounding settlers. Fleming brought grace, quiet strength, and emotional resilience to the role, embodying a man whose deeply held beliefs remain firm even in the face of hostility and fear. Despite these artistic highs, Fleming's life ended in an unexpected and tragic way that left fans and historians with far more questions than answers. At the height of his post-Rawhide resurgence, he signed on for a new television project that would take him far from Hollywood, to the jungles of Peru. The project, a two-part ABC movie of the week titled High Jungle, was designed to showcase his versatility by placing him in a more adventurous and exotic role. On September 28, 1966, while shooting a scene on the Hualaga River alongside co-star Nico Minardos, disaster struck. Details from the time were murky and often conflicting. According to initial reports, Fleming fell from a canoe during filming and disappeared into the turbulent waters. What was initially described as a tragic accident soon became a matter of deep curiosity and speculation. Over the years, numerous theories surfaced, some attributing his death to a miscalculation during a stunt, others questioning the safety protocols on set, and still others pointing to inadequate planning by the production crew. It took decades for the full account to finally emerge. Eyewitness testimony and later investigations revealed that the canoe had capsized during a particularly hazardous scene, and Fleming, who was not a strong swimmer, was swept away by the swift current. Despite efforts to rescue him, his body wasn't recovered until days later, far downstream. The Peruvian authorities later confirmed that he had died from drowning. The incident brought filming to an abrupt halt, and High Jungle was never completed. For fans, colleagues, and industry observers, the loss was deeply felt. Fleming had been poised for a second career renaissance, ready to explore new genres and characters, when his promising journey was abruptly and tragically cut short. During either a rehearsal or an actual take, Eric Fleming was swept away by the powerful, fast-moving current of the river. Despite immediate and exhaustive search efforts, his body wasn't found until several days later. When it was finally recovered, the condition of his remains raised deeply unsettling questions. For many years, the accepted version of events held that he had drowned, a tragic but straightforward accident occurring in a dangerous, remote environment. However, those close to the production began to quietly suggest there was more to the story. Rumors swirled of inadequate safety protocols, insufficient logistical planning, and underlying tension among the crew. These suspicions only grew stronger due to the limited investigation conducted by Peruvian authorities, the minimal media coverage, and what appeared to be a deliberate rush to bring closure to the case without deeper scrutiny. Thanks to newly discovered production documents, first-hand accounts from surviving crew members, and recently declassified diplomatic messages exchanged between U.S. embassy officials and Peruvian authorities, a far more disturbing and complete account of Fleming's final hours has come to light. It is now confirmed that the production team failed to provide the necessary safety equipment for the canoe scenes, even after being explicitly warned by local residents about the river's danger. Neither Fleming nor his co-star Nico Minardos were wearing life jackets during filming, and the canoe chosen for the shoot was later deemed too unstable and unsuitable for such a strong current. More troubling still, Fleming himself had reportedly voiced serious misgivings about the scene just days before the accident. According to one of his fellow cast members, he confessed that he did not feel safe and was concerned about the unpredictable nature of the river. Yet because of budget pressures and the urgency to stay on schedule, the crew proceeded without addressing his concerns. Even more damning, a series of photographs taken right before the accident indicate that the shoot was not properly overseen by the stunt coordinator. The director had insisted on multiple takes in order to capture the ideal shot of the canoe navigating the rapids. Fleming was reportedly in poor physical condition, fatigued, dehydrated, and ill from prolonged exposure to the harsh jungle conditions, all of which made him more vulnerable in such a demanding scene. When the canoe finally overturned, Minardos managed to swim safely to shore. Fleming, however, was quickly dragged beneath the rapids, according to confidential telegrams sent from the U.S. consulate in Lima. His body, once recovered several days later, displayed severe injuries, including head trauma, that did not align with simple drowning. It is now widely believed that Fleming's death was caused by high-impact collisions with submerged rocks, suggesting a violent and instantaneous end. This shocking truth paints the tragedy not as an unavoidable misfortune, but as a death that could have been entirely prevented had proper precautions been observed. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of the entire incident is the speed and efficiency with which the most unsettling elements were covered up. Both ABC and the producers of High Jungle quickly pushed forward a narrative of accidental drowning, carefully omitting any details that might imply liability or negligence. Working in close coordination with local officials, they limited press access and presented the situation as a natural tragedy. Behind closed doors, ABC shelved the entire project and never addressed the incident publicly again. Crew members were instructed to remain silent, and Minardos, deeply affected by the trauma, only made brief and vague remarks in the years that followed, further fueling speculation and mystery around what had truly transpired. On October 1st, 3 days after the fatal incident, Fleming's body was finally discovered farther downstream. News of his death rippled through the entertainment world, leaving fans and colleagues in disbelief. He was just 41 years old at the time and had been engaged to Lynn Garber, the woman he intended to marry. His sudden and violent passing left her and many others shattered with grief. The production of High Jungle was immediately halted. Without its leading man and in recognition of the devastating loss, MGM chose not to finish or distribute the film. What might have been a career-defining transition into new genres for Fleming, instead, became a forgotten and unfinished project, remembered only because of the tragic event associated with it. Fleming's untimely death marked a painful and abrupt end to the life of an actor who had already overcome so much adversity. His early years were marked by hardship, including a troubled childhood and multiple serious physical injuries, yet he fought through those setbacks to find success and respect in Hollywood. His death was not just a loss to his fans and the film industry. It also served as a sobering reminder of the immense risks that performers often undertake in pursuit of their craft. In the 1960s, before the widespread implementation of rigorous safety regulations for on-location filming, such risks were too often ignored or downplayed. The newly surfaced revelations surrounding Fleming's final moments expose not just a personal tragedy, but a larger failure of responsibility. They point to systemic negligence, corporate indifference, and a refusal to prioritize safety over schedules and profit. Though Fleming is still remembered fondly for his iconic role as the stoic and noble Gil Favor, this deeper insight into his final days casts a haunting shadow over that legacy. What was once a mystery buried beneath polite silence and half-truths has now been uncovered. But rather than offering closure, it serves as a stark warning. Fame may illuminate the screen, but behind the camera, hidden dangers and human errors can bring irreversible consequences.